Imagine a car that never stops running. No charging stations. No gas pumps. Just endless motion. Sounds impossible, right? Well, a team of American engineers just tested exactly that, and what they discovered has the entire automotive industry in complete panic mode. This is the story of how one invention from Africa just flipped the entire energy world upside down. So here's where this wild journey begins. Picture a quiet testing facility somewhere in California. This place isn't your average garage. We're talking about a high-security compound where the world's most cutting-edge technology gets evaluated before anyone else even knows it exists. It's the kind of place where billion-dollar secrets are kept behind locked doors and guarded gates. One morning, a shipping container arrives from Africa. Nothing unusual about that, right? Except the security around this particular delivery was insane. Guards everywhere. Hushed conversations. Engineers gathering around like kids on Christmas morning, except half of them looked skeptical and the other half looked straight up annoyed. The rumor mill was already spinning. Someone claimed this container held a vehicle that could run indefinitely without any external power source. Most people laughed it off. Another overhyped gimmick, they said. But deep down, everyone was curious enough to stick around and see what the fuss was about. When they finally cracked open that container and rolled out the vehicle, you know what happened? Absolutely nothing dramatic. No fireworks. No grand reveal music. Just a sleek, modern-looking car that honestly looked pretty normal. One engineer walked up, knocked on the hood, and made a joke about hidden solar panels. Everyone chuckled nervously because honestly, what else could it be? But then they popped the hood open and that's when things got weird. Instead of the massive battery packs you'd expect in any electric vehicle, there was this compact module sitting there, glowing faintly. No charging ports, no fuel lines, nothing that resembled any EV architecture these experts had ever encountered. One of the senior engineers just stood there staring at it, scratching his head like he'd just seen a magic trick he couldn't figure out. Now, these aren't amateurs we're talking about. These are people who've spent decades building, testing, and tearing apart vehicles. They've seen every innovation, every failed prototype, every clever shortcut manufacturers try to pull. And yet, standing in front of this machine, they had absolutely no explanation for what they were looking at. So they did what any skeptical engineer would do. They set up every testing instrument they had. Energy scanners, load simulators, real-time monitoring systems that could track every single electron moving through that vehicle. If there was a trick, they were going to find it. When they fired up the car, the room went completely silent. No engine roar, no electric whine, just this subtle, almost eerie hum. The kind of sound that makes you feel like you're standing next to something that shouldn't exist. The car rolled onto the test track, and immediately, the data screen started lighting up. Power was flowing. The vehicle was moving. But here's the thing that made everyone's jaw drop. The energy readings made absolutely no sense. There was no battery depletion, no external power source feeding into it, no drop in performance even when they hit the accelerator hard. One of the lead engineers leaned into his monitor, squinted at the numbers, and said out loud what everyone was thinking. This shouldn't be possible. But the team wasn't about to accept mystery as an answer. They decided to stress test this thing to destruction. First, they loaded it down with sandbags and steel plates, way beyond what any normal vehicle would carry. Then they pointed it at the steepest incline on the property, the kind of hill that would drain even the best electric vehicles on the market in minutes. The driver hit the gas. The car climbed. No hesitation. No struggle. The energy output stayed rock solid, like the vehicle was tapping into some infinite reservoir that physics textbooks claim doesn't exist. A younger engineer watching the monitors let out this nervous laugh and said, "Okay, that's definitely not supposed to happen." Still, skepticism ran deep. Maybe there was a hidden battery that would eventually run out. Maybe the readings were glitched. So they designed the ultimate torture test. A full 24-hour endurance run. No brakes, no pit stops. Just continuous motion. Any normal electric vehicle would need multiple charging sessions. Even the absolute best models on the market today can't run for a full day without plugging in. They cleared the track, set up surveillance cameras, and let it roll. Hours ticked by. Night fell. Morning came. That glowing module under the hood stayed consistent, never flickering, never fading. The data screens continued showing the same impossible readings. At the 20-hour mark, the chief engineer finally lost his composure. He slammed his notebook shut and announced to everyone in the room, "This isn't a battery. This isn't solar power. This is something completely different. By hour 24, the car was still going strong. Not a single second of downtime. Not a single cable plugged in. Just pure, unexplainable motion. When the test finally ended, the engineering team gathered behind closed doors to compile their official report. What they wrote would eventually leak to certain industry insiders, and the language they used was careful but unmistakable. They called it a potential paradigm shift in energy technology. But buried in the final section was a sentence that sent chills through everyone who read it. If authentic, this technology threatens existing EV infrastructure, charging networks, and the entire oil-dependent global economy. Think about what that means for a second. We're not talking about a better battery. We're not talking about faster charging. We're talking about technology that could make gas stations obsolete, charging networks pointless, lithium mining unnecessary. The entire foundation of how we've powered transportation for over a century just gone. And that's when things got really intense. Within hours of the test results being logged, the phone calls started. The facility was supposed to be private, but in the world of energy and automotive technology, secrets don't stay secret for long. By midnight, representatives from every major car manufacturer you can name were already reaching out. Companies that usually compete tooth and nail were suddenly all asking the same question. Is this real? One name kept coming up more than any other, though. Someone noticed a black SUV pull up outside the facility late at night, and the whispers started immediately. Does he know about this? Is he coming? By the next morning, unmarked security contractors started showing up around the testing hangar. They claimed it was for safety purposes, but the engineers weren't buying it. Some believed these were corporate scouts sent to monitor the situation without drawing attention. Inside the facility, a heated argument broke out. Some wanted to publish the results immediately, let the world know what they'd discovered. Others warned that going public would put everyone involved in danger. One senior engineer finally exploded, saying, "If this leaks, every energy empire in the world will come crashing down. Do you people realize what you've just unleashed?" Late that night, word spread about a confidential request that had been sent directly to the African team. An invitation for a private, off-the-record meeting to discuss intellectual property rights. No official paperwork, no public acknowledgement, just a quiet signal from one of the biggest players in the EV industry that they weren't about to ignore this disruption. The team behind the vehicle stayed silent, refusing to confirm or deny anything, but that silence said everything. By the following morning, it wasn't just car companies paying attention anymore. The results had quietly reached government officials. Energy Department analysts were dispatched. Think tanks scrambled to write reports about what this could mean geopolitically. One leaked memo was remarkably blunt. If verified, Africa could become the new global hub of energy independence. For a continent that's been exploited for its resources for centuries, that single statement felt like the tables finally turning. Back in Africa, the team behind this technology had already anticipated this reaction. They knew the moment American engineers confirmed what the vehicle could do, every major corporation and government would try to seize control. So before anyone could make an offer or pressure them into a deal, they issued a public statement. This technology will not be sold. It will be shared on Africa's terms. That declaration sent shockwaves around the world. For decades, African innovation had been either ignored, stolen, or bought for nothing. But this time, things were different. The engineers who'd conducted the tests found themselves trapped in a situation they never expected. One day they were measuring torque and analyzing power curves. The next, they were caught in the middle of a geopolitical firestorm. Some feared speaking publicly would cost them their careers. Others worried about the safety of the team behind the invention. Quiet warnings started circulating. Be careful. Technologies like this don't stay independent for long. And then the media caught wind of everything. By the third day after testing, whispers became headlines. African self-powered vehicle passes American tests. Engineers left speechless by breakthrough technology. Energy revolution could reshape global economy. News networks ran footage of the mysterious vehicle being tested, and even though the images were grainy and distant, it was enough to ignite a frenzy. Social media exploded with hashtags celebrating African innovation and questioning what this meant for the future. In Africa, people celebrated like their team had just won the World Cup. For the first time in a long time, the narrative wasn't about exploitation or aid or being left behind. It was about leadership, about being first, about owning the future. Meanwhile, across the US and Europe, reactions were split down the middle. Some called it the greatest breakthrough since the light bulb. Others warned that if this technology spread, it could destabilize everything from oil markets to the massive infrastructure built around charging electric vehicles. One oil industry lobbyist even went on live television and declared, if this spreads unchecked, entire industries will collapse within 5 years. Everyone wanted to know what the biggest name in electric vehicles thought about all this. Finally, he tweeted something short and cryptic. If it's real, then the future just arrived sooner than expected. That single tweet ignited even more speculation. Was he impressed? Threatened? Or was he already planning his next move behind closed doors? As the world debated and argued, the inventor appeared at a press conference, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. And with the world watching, he made his position crystal clear. This technology belongs to Africa, but it also belongs to humanity. We will not sell it. We will not surrender it. We will lead with it. The crowd erupted. For the first time, Africa wasn't just part of the conversation. It was leading it. In the weeks that followed, the world divided into two camps. On one side, nations and companies rushing to embrace this new technology. Agreements were signed. Pilot programs launched. Factories proposed everywhere from South America to Asia. On the other side, those determined to resist, terrified of what would happen to oil profits, lithium mining operations, and the trillion-dollar charging infrastructure industry. Secret lobbying intensified. Shadow deals were made. The battlefield wasn't just in boardrooms anymore. It was in media coverage, in courtrooms, in the streets. Amid all this chaos, the U.S. Department of Energy extended an invitation for a public demonstration in the nation's capital. It would be broadcast live to millions worldwide. In front of senators, CEOs, scientists, and journalists, the vehicle ran continuously for 72 hours straight. No charging, no refueling, just silent, endless motion. At the end of the test, a visibly shaken American engineer stepped up to the microphone and said words that would echo around the planet. We've tested it. We've verified it. And it's real. This changes everything. The impact was immediate and massive. Oil prices dropped overnight. Stocks in charging companies collapsed. African markets surged. And the name of the inventor entered history books alongside the greatest minds in science and engineering. Standing before a roaring crowd, he delivered final words that captured the moment perfectly. The future will no longer be dictated by those who control energy. The future will be powered by those who control innovation. And today, Africa takes its place at the center of that future. The applause didn't just echo across one continent. It echoed across all of them, because everyone watching knew they'd just witnessed the beginning of something monumental. The age of vehicles that never need charging or refueling had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. So if you found this story as mind-blowing as we did, smash that like button and subscribe, because the revolution is just getting started, and you definitely don't want to miss what comes next.